mean, come on, how controversial am I? Maybe I show a little cleavage or something, but I'm really not that controversial.
Yeah, for real. That's weird.
But maybe like health and healing is a controversial topic. And money. They don't want us talking about this stuff. So let's start this way. Ginny, why were you interested in coming and having like this cool little three-way conversation about money with Antonio and me?
Rita, well, I thought it would be really interesting to come and chat because we're at 3 different points in our life. And it's so important. And I learned as a very young woman the importance of money literacy and knowing the value of money and how to manage it. So I thought, hey,
how did you learn that? I mean, like what are the stories behind that? How did you,
okay.
I mean, what kind of impressed upon you?
So I believe that every young person who comes out of school, you are inundated with all these free credit cards. Get this card, $500, no problem. You don't need credit.
I have a friend who works for the credit card company. She totally, you know, when they came out for college students, she was like, but it helps them build their credit. And we're all like, you're totally taking advantage of the college students. What's going on?
Right. So I think I, like everybody else I know, we fell into that trap and we had credit cards. Oh, okay. So we can go buy this and that. And then the bills came in and I went, well, hold on. I have a job. Yes. I'm also paying off my student loans. How am I supposed to pay these credit cards? So I learned as a young woman that you need to know what things cost. You need to know your fixed costs. And I remember to this day, my father telling me that in his mind, the worst mistake, the biggest sin was to carry a balance on your credit card because the credit card companies are evil. And
well, they are evil.
He would rather that I borrow money from him and pay that off and start fresh. Do not give them a penny, was what I kept hearing as a young woman.
Wow, you got a good start. That's kind of cool. How about you, Antonio? How did you get into money?
Well, when I was in college, everyone else had a credit card and I didn't. So I guess maybe I was lucky there.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, but then I had no credit score for the first few years, so I had to build that up. Yeah, I mean, I just always wanted more and more money in order to, because I see money as something that gives you more opportunities and something that gives you more freedom to then use that money to get you more things that you want and help other people that you can help and that kind of thing. Like, you know, it's important to give with what you can, but you can't give unless you have enough to give. Yeah, someone commented on one of my videos the other day and was like mad at me for it because I do the real estate investing stuff of picking a location where there's like lower unemployment rates. Because he was saying I was discriminating people by choosing like how much money they make or if they make money. And I was like, if I was running a charity, yeah, it would make sense. But I need to take my money and make sure it makes me money this way. Then at some point in time, I can make such a big impact on the world because I have so much to give. And I don't think it's fair for, you know, someone like that to just call me like a greedy or an elitist person for choosing that area because it affects, you know, my return on investment. If there's people who can't rent, then I can't pay the mortgage. If I can't pay the mortgage, then I'm just going to go underwater. I'm not going to help anyone. Yeah, sure. Someone may have a place to live for a few months, but I won't end up with anything.
It's not, it's not sustainable. And that happens with healers too, you know, because healers are supposed to be above needing any money. We're supposed to live off of air or something, you know, or if we find some rich person to, you know, to hook up with, then we're siphoning off of their funds. And what are we doing? We're just airy fairy healer types. Healers get a really bad rap about the very same thing. We're not supposed to charge. And if we charge, we're not supposed to charge much. And we're supposed to be happy if all somebody can do is give us a chicken. And the thing that the model I really like is where I work with people who help sustain the side of the business that of the information and the support that I give away for free. So my business includes people who are wealthy to people who don't have any money. And it ends up being my choice as to what's a good fit for me. How do I want to spend my time? But I do all of it. And the people who pay me more help support the whole, like paying taxes almost somehow. It supports the whole system so that I can help other people really find their own freedom too.
That's wonderful, Rita. The sliding scale. I love it. And I think that's something that I also would want to do when my business gets to that point. It's kind of like pay it forward. Somebody helped you along the way, so we get, in turn, we get to help somebody else.
Exactly, but it has to be sustainable. I mean, you come from an Italian family where sacrifice is king, right? Where the best thing you can do is martyr yourself on the altar.
that's my dad, my mom, they just always sacrifice. Oh, you could take the chair, or it's okay, I got it. Oh, it's all right, I'll do it. And it's good because it shows you care about the other person, but it's bad because you end up hurting yourself a lot of times and putting other people before you, which sometimes you need to put yourself first.
Absolutely. And I come from a Protestant background. So what's instilled in me is hard work. You got to work and work hard, and you get to move up the ladder. And so that's always front of mind for me as well.
Well, those are the kind of beliefs that a lot of us carry, that have gotten in the way. One of the things we've talked about all week is you have to nourish yourself first before you do anything else. You have to make sure that your needs are met and to be responsive and thoughtful about those needs. And that gives you the ability to care about other people. Because if you're depleted, then the whole system sort of breaks down. You have to be just as healthy, if not healthier, than everybody else around you. And these money things, that say it's evil or that only selfish people, we don't even know. I've had to go through and look at all of these memories that I have around money and the emotional charges I have around them and the stories that came up around them. And there's lots of them, from, lottery being used to pay for public schools to, the time my dad gave me a silver dollar. We have to kind of go through and look at all of the things that keep us from realizing we've got to have enough flowing in, enough resources flowing in so that we can grow and give from the overflow.
Exactly. You said something there. I remember, like, one of the first things I ever learned from Eben was you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. And when I was like, 17, 18, I'm starting to learn about like self-improvement and stuff. I would lock myself in my room and like read Think and Grow Rich. And my parents were like, you want to come to the store? I was like, no, I'm like doing stuff. And they would not care about me or what I was doing. They thought it as selfish. Like I didn't want to spend time with them. And I kept having that quote in the back of my head, like, it's okay, Antonio, you need to be selfish this way. At one point in time, you can be selfless and help them more than you could now. This is the best way I could put it.
And then Rita, a mentor that we all share, I had said to him one day, like, how much money do people actually need? When you look around at someone like Tony Robbins, I think I was talking about him, like, how much money does the guy need? And my mentor turned to me and he was very serious. He said, you need to rethink your mindset around money, because the more he makes, the more he is able to give. So maybe it's that I don't hear about the giving part. I just see, how much money someone such as him is making, and then there's fabulous examples like Bill Gates and his wife. They've given away, what is it, 80% of their wealth or 90%. So we each have to kind of find our own path through that and what works for each of us.
But the really cool part about that is that they gave first to get, right? They built crazy large businesses that have helped so many people in exchange for the money, made their lives okay. And then they took that and then they made everyone else's life okay even more. So it's like double the benefit when you do it this way. Whereas like if you yourself are struggling with money and then you try to give from the little that you have, you may temporarily feel good and you may temporarily help someone else. And yes, it's a good act that everyone should do, but it's not sustainable and you're not really making that much of an impact. And typically, if you don't have that much money, you're not like giving that much value to other people. So it's like a double whammy there. Whereas if you do it their way, which I guess in a lot of people's eyes is frowned upon because they're rich and they should be giving all of it away, in my opinion, is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and there's a belief that I carried for a long time that people who were wealthy, they were only wealthy because they took advantage of other people, because they were bad people who manipulated them into doing or buying things that weren't good for them, like the credit card companies, at that time. And there were two, schools of thought. My friend she was in the marketing department. She's in the marketing department of Discover. And she believes wholeheartedly, that they need credit cards to build a credit rating. But the model's shifting. It's now becoming about being innovative, being creative, bringing something to the world that it needs, that hasn't been seen, that solves a problem. And that's where a lot of wealth is coming in now, not because people are taking advantage of somebody, but because they're bringing great value to society as a whole.
Well, the credit cards bring value in one way, shape, or form, right? You mentioned it, is they help people's credits, but also people who don't have the money right now, but will have it in a few weeks can decide to purchase it. Ultimately, the reason why credit cards are painted as bad people is because they make a profit off of your dumb financial mistakes.
Right.
Credit card, yeah, it's really your fault, not the credit card company's fault. But people like to blame the credit card company, even though you signed up for the credit card.
Yes, of course, but that's easier. But yes, but you make that dumb or ill-informed purchase, and then you're, not able to clear your balance. So, and
then there's building a business, or having a genius, innovative idea. I mean, for me to get my business going, I racked up a lot of debt because I believed in what I needed to do, even if other people didn't believe as much in me. And I knew I needed to stay this path. And so because I needed to develop that first, I was like, I have to develop this. I have to take the financial risk. I'm willing to take the financial risk because I believe in the direction that I'm going. I believe that it's an investment in myself, versus
exactly.
Versus a debt I'm carrying because I had a moment of weakness. Although I used to really hate doing taxes because I only did them once a year for my business. And I'd look back over the year and I'd have to go through the receipts, and it was so emotionally painful. The big expenses you made that didn't turn out quite the way that you thought they would. And, I don't like to reflect on that stuff. So actually I got a bookkeeper who now keeps me more up to date, so I'm not in such emotional angst.
That's around. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was a smart move for me because I've got a lot of emotional angst around it. And 16 years of doing taxes and dreading them, panic stricken, because I'd have to look at all the mistakes that I made and what a loser I was, for believing in that thing. And it took a real shift that I worked really hard on to say, you know what, I don't have to know how this works. I can get someone to help me. And if I get someone to help me, this makes it a lot easier. I don't have to face the dragon all by himself, which is where you guys come in, because both as coaches, you help people do some of the hard things, especially stuff around money or investing or starting something new.
For sure. And it's about checking in and doing that deep dive and figuring out what has worked and what hasn't worked, and then coming up with, I'm all about the tiny steps and trying something on, get that working, and then add to it. How about you, Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I used to do, and I still do a significant amount, is I like to avoid taxes. For example, this year I decided to put all 3 of my LLCs till today or this week to start writing out all of my expenses and, jotting everything down and making sure I have the income and getting all the documents. I did one yesterday. It took me like 4 hours to go through all my credit card statements. But I avoid that sometimes because like I don't want to look at it because I don't want to know how much money I spent. I don't want to know, and it's okay because I have enough money coming in to cover it. But there was a point in time where I was every single month. I had one day where I was writing out my credit score, and I was writing out my how much I had saved and what all my assets were. And if it didn't go up, I would try to analyze what went wrong, what happened. At that point in time, when I was doing that, I was way more on top of my finances than I am right now. That helped me not worry about it, was actually facing it head on rather than letting it just grow as this bigger and bigger thing in the background. Yeah, like you said, Jenny, if you break it down to tiny steps, for me, it was once a month, look at all my credit cards, look at all of my bank accounts and write out, okay, how much do I have total? There's a cool app called Mint that helps you with that. It totals everything up for you when you connect all your accounts. And it can give you a quick overview so you can have some peace of mind or catch a problem before it becomes too late. If you let the credit card go for too long and the interest is accruing, then it could get really bad. So the sooner you catch it, the better, instead of hiding from the problem like I do sometimes.
Well, because it's terrifying. I knew I couldn't look at my finances. I couldn't start to turn them around. I couldn't do it by myself. I just didn't have the courage and the emotional resiliency in order to face all of that. And I really, I wanted to find somebody who was good with numbers, who was used to this sort of thing. So I didn't have, who could boost me up. So I didn't, sit there and just keep pulling myself down, which is what keeps us from being successful. When we keep ripping ourselves apart or calling ourselves a bad person, that keeps us from actually bringing in the money that we deserve for what we're giving out into the world.
For sure. As a young woman, I took on the mindset that I paid myself first. So this is a popular concept. So I'm curious if either of you do the same thing. Pay myself first, and 10% of my income automatically went into a bank account or an investment account where I couldn't touch it. And that was with compound interest, which was building and building. And over the years that I tried different things, sometimes I would have 2 or 3 10% accounts going because I was saving for like a down payment for a car or something like that. But to me, that kept me on track to meet my financial goals, and just having the discipline and not touching that money. Have either of you tried that?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as a tax. If the government said today, okay, we're raising your taxes, and God, I hope they don't. But if they do, and they raise their taxes on you, what are you going to do? You have to pay it, right? It's unlikely you have a choice unless you're okay with going to jail or accepting that opportunity. You have to find a way to do it. And it starts off by doing something small, like a 5%, or even start with $1 if you have to, and then grow that to 10, and then grow that to 20 and 30 and 40. Every month you've successfully done it. I'm sure you can find something else you can cut out. So the way I have it with my job is I get the direct deposits and it automatically goes into separate bank accounts. So I don't look at that money. And what I actually had to do this year was I gave my mom, I created a separate bank account where my mom only knows the username and password to. And
Wow.
I have 45% of my income going to that bank account, and I can't touch it. So it's forcing me to save, because now the only way I can get it is I have to call my mom and say, hey, can you transfer me some money, please? And then she's going to ask me why. It like forces me to hold myself accountable. But that's what I had to do, because I was spending money earlier this year on stuff that I probably didn't need to spend that much money on. And I need the money in order to save and buy my next property or quit my job, whatever it is, to do coaching full time. So for me, it was, I had to do it. Even though it's embarrassing to say that my mom has my bank account, I had to do it.
But it's smart. I mean, that's brilliant. And that's the thing. You had the wherewithal and you had the chops to say, you know what, this might be a little embarrassing, but this is the thing that's going to work. You know, a lot of people, they'll just avoid the embarrassing thing and then keep going down the same rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Early on, Antonio, I kept my credit cards in the freezer. So they were out of sight. They were not in my wallet, so I couldn't use them. So I would have to, I'm going to go buy something. Oh, I need to go retrieve my credit card. It's just that extra step of being, conscientious about, So we all have different ways. I used to, have different jars. I had studied that system where every week you would take money out and put it in the jars. Okay, this is for food. This is, gas. This is this and this. I think this was pre-debit card, so it's a while ago. And, that would work, and you'd borrow from one jar and steal from another. And but the process just made you present. Like, okay, this is all I got. How do I make this work?
Yeah, but it's also like making the decision ahead of time to make the thing that you're more likely to do more difficult to do by setting up your environment in a way so it's easier to get to avoid than it is. Like I have this jar thing over here, and it has a timer lock on the top. It was $70. $70. Yes. I put my phone in there sometimes overnight because like I want to take my phone with me to bed and like watch YouTube videos before I go to sleep. But I'm like, nope, it's not good for me. Put my phone in the jar, turn it for 9 hours. Just before this, I had my phone in for an hour because I had to work on a sales page. I was like, I got to get it done. So I put my phone in there for an hour, boom. Otherwise, I would have sat there and wasted my time on the phone. But that's something you have to do. Make the decision ahead of time in order to prevent the stress and the worry about, in this case, the phone, but worrying about money ahead of time.
I was talking to Manny before you guys, and we were talking about how comedians tend to be thought leaders, and so do healers, and so do coaches. We're always thinking like 4 or 5 or 6 steps ahead for our future self. What can we do today that will shape who I'm becoming? Because it's almost like who you are every moment has to do with everything that's come up before then. And so if I'm going to change how I look at things, then I have to change something in this moment that it might not ripen or mature for 6 or 7 years, but I have to take the steps now for my future self, so I can achieve what I want to achieve, so I can meet my goals. We have to start looking a little bit further forward and knowing how we work without being judgy. You could have judged yourself and say, oh, I'm such a bad person. I'm always on my phone. There's nothing I can do. But you said, I need to solve this problem. How can I negate, my own tendencies, my own humanity, my own normal human addictions? How can I compensate for that without all the judginess and you're a bad person. And, so we come up with solutions that work for us. It's not about following somebody else's solution. It's about finding the solution that works for you that might look like somebody else's.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't have to give your mom your bank account or put your credit cards in the freezer, but maybe hide your credit cards in a drawer upstairs or far away. So you have to go far to reach them, whatever it is, whatever you got to do differently to make it work for you.
Or start a business.
Yeah.
Put yourself in debt and figure out how to get yourself out of the hole. That's exciting.
Yeah. You put your back against the wall. That's what you
Yes. Triple your rent. That's the way to do it.
Thank you for sharing the jar with the timer, because I recently had a client who needed a lot of help about exactly that, not having her.
Yeah, we want to see it.
Having her phone beside her in bed.
And it's bad for the brain, the whole, 5G.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's got timer on. As soon as I twist it, it starts adding time. And as soon as I let go, as soon as I press the button, it gives me 5 seconds and then it locks and you can't open it. I took my mom and my sister's phone one day and I put it inside here and I was like, you guys need to, they were arguing about something. I was like, but they kept looking at their phones. I was like, you guys need to solve this, put their phones inside here. 5 minutes, they were done. But they spent so much time on their phones before they were arguing for a half hour.
Right, because they weren't really present or paying attention to what was going on around them. And there's nothing, there's no judginess around that because we are all susceptible to that. It's just human nature. All this stuff out there really is designed to keep us distracted, to keep us part of the, I'm a conspiracy theorist, I think. It's designed to keep us from being present. And so when you stay present, that's when you make the best decisions for yourself because you're able to be intuitive. But we all get hooked into it very easily.
Mm. Yeah. There's did you watch the Social Dilemma or read Digital Minimalism?
No, I didn't. Can you give us a synopsis?
Yeah. Basically like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these companies have attention engineers that are specifically designed to keep your attention on the page. They're, watching where your eyes looking, how long you're spending on time on this post. And then using all of that to calculate, what is the optimal post for you at this specific point in time to keep you addicted all the way down to the color of the notification.
Right.
That's why like we need these things in place to prevent us from making the mistake because these companies will take your attention. The credit card companies will take your money. The mortgage companies will take your money if you don't do the right things ahead of time to prevent yourself from going into that. Make it as impossible as possible to remove yourself from a possible scenario like that.
Right. I like to call it setting yourself up for success. How much do you think, to what degree do you think the social media and the attention and we're going to give you what you want to see and targeted messages, how much do you think that's contributed to the mob action that we've had the last day or so?
I think it's contributed to everything we've seen all year, whether it's through what happened yesterday or through the protests and the riots all summer or the way people reacted to coronavirus or the way people reacted to the election as a whole. If you're conservative, you were fed conservative stuff. If you're liberal, you were fed liberal stuff. And you didn't get to see the other person's point of view. We're living in two different realities and no one wants to listen to each other because everyone thinks the other person is crazy because one person's tuning into one thing and the other person's tuning into the other thing. They see that as reality. The other person sees that as reality. And they're like, I can't even fathom what you're thinking because my newsfeed is completely different than yours. So I understand what happened yesterday and I understand what happened all summer because that's what these people have been fed. That piece of information, that type of information that incites them to do this kind of thing. And then add that on top of everyone being locked in home for so long that people are ready to do something at any point in time right now.
Yeah,
Right.
we've lost the art of considering the other person's opinion. I grew up in a household where my parents listened to the radio all day, and they would listen to both sides, the liberal side, the liberal stations, They listened to talk radio all day. And then they would listen to the conservative voices as well, because they wanted to understand the different perspectives so that they could make a decision for themselves on, what they thought was right and wrong. And as a little kid, I used to think this is nuts. But now I really appreciate that you need to take the step to go and learn about the other opinion. If you're a moderate, you're like, what are the conservatives thinking? I'm in Canada, so we're liberals and conservatives. And you need to understand the other person's perspective.
But the part that makes it even more challenging here is like the credit card companies. It's easy to swipe your credit card. It's easy to open up your phone and see what's on there. But what's not easy to do is to, if I listen to Fox News all the time, to go ahead and search what CNN is talking about, because I do that regularly to see what both sides are saying, and both homepages are completely different. In fact, I did it yesterday. I did it with OAN and CNN. CNN had pro-Trump rally storms the Capitol. OAN showed Trump giving a speech and all the big crowd and how peaceful it was. And then the same thing happened all summer. CNN didn't talk about any of the riots that were burning down cities across the U.S. And then Fox News and all the conservative outlets were like, this is all you see. There's no peaceful protest. So it's like, who do you believe? That's the problem, is getting people to go out of their comfort zone to do the challenging thing, when it's now even more easier for them to just listen to what they already believe is true. Right. With the credit card thing, what is already very easy to do, just swipe the credit card. You don't have the cash right now. You don't want to go to an ATM. Just swipe the credit card. Just use Apple Pay. Just use Google Pay, whatever it is. So much easier.
So we're going to hop off in a few minutes. Do you guys have any nuggets of wisdom about buying your first investment property, or rules about how to stay on track for your goals?
In terms of buying your first investment property, there are ways you can get in one quicker than most people would think. You don't always need a 25% down payment. That is the best way to make it just an investment and not a place you live in. But there's advantages that at least the United States government, I'm pretty sure Canada gives some too, in order to get into a property at a lower down payment and get started with real estate investing sooner. So I don't want everyone here to think like, oh, that's too far out of my comfort zone. I'm not even saving $10 a month. But, after a few months of saving a decent amount of money, I think you can get started in certain areas at a lower down payment. That's all I want to say there. Because
why would people want to buy an investment property? Because I always saw those as slumlords when I was a kid. That was the big, they're slumlords.
Yeah. Well, some people see people like me like that, but the way I see it is I'm providing people who can't get a mortgage because they don't have a good credit score, because they don't have a stable job, or because they're moving. They're going to be there for short term. I provide them with a place to live. And that is in my opinion, one of the biggest value providing things you can do in this world is give someone shelter. Feeding them shelter, clothing. It's one of the few things you can do. I'm providing 7 families a home right now, and that means a lot to me. And yes, I'm making money off of it, and it's allowing me to grow my wealth, but I'm also helping people that couldn't get a home if they wanted to, because some people don't want to sign up for a 30-year mortgage. Some people like the flexibility of leaving. Some people don't want to deal with all the problems that come with owning a house. I'll take care of those problems for them, and then I can get a financial reward for it. That's how it works.
That's a beautiful way to look at it, because my husband, he's a hunter, and he's a bow hunter primarily, and he has been all of his life. He grew up in Iowa, and it was just part of the feel of the place. And he does it, even though it's really controversial, because he sees it as feeding his family. He sees it as being a part of a bigger flow, as taking responsibility for his part in his own consumption. So he feels really good about what he does because he's feeding and providing for the people that he loves, his family and his friends. And I mean, I love how you say that, you're providing shelter for 7 families. I mean, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a basic need that's being met that a lot of people aren't getting met. I like how you framed that. Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you that think that slumlords all landlords are slumlords, there's people like me that care. So, not everyone is the landlord that you never meet, and they suck, but there's a lot of good ones out there too.
When I knew a lot of people who weren't super wealthy, who didn't have a lot of money, who did have rental properties. My godparents, for example, I mean, they were teachers and they had rental properties.
Yeah, you don't have to be super wealthy to have them. That's the thing is I'm trying to say is there's ways for you to get started sooner. And then once you get started, it's kind of like you need to have some money to the side. Money's like a thing that can work for you. Every dollar's like I don't want to use the word slave, but it can work for you while you sleep. It does what you tell it to do. So you take the money you put into a house, it makes you more money. Now you have the money from the job that you were saving, plus that money that you're making from the first house, and you go ahead and get a second one. Now you got 2 houses and the job, you do it again faster. And then you got 3, then you can keep doing it over and over and over again. And it helps you with every house, with every dollar that you keep saving from all of these things. It gives you more freedom, less worry, because the finance area of your life is handled. You can sleep at night knowing that you're going to be able to feed your kids, you're going to be able to feed your family, and you have plenty of tax breaks, plenty of money that if everything in the world, if the government disappeared, you still own the land. The land is yours. They can't take it away from you. So there's a lot behind that where it's not just getting one. It ends up helping you end up getting more than one as time goes on because you can keep repeating the process.
What about maintaining them? Isn't that kind of a pain in the butt?
Yes. So the way I run them is I save money to the side when I collect the rent. Right now, I take 8% away of the monthly rent for repairs, 8% for capital expenditures, and 5% in the case that there's a vacancy, to make sure that I don't have to pull money out of my own pocket to cover it. Now, there's times where things go wrong consistently, you need to cover that, and that happens. But I'm trying to minimize that effect. Again, I'm planning ahead to try to minimize me having to pull money out of my savings account to cover any of the property issues and have them run on their own. But yeah, it happens all the time. My property manager texted me the other day, said 2 of the showers need to be redone. And that's going to cost like $10,000. But luckily I have money saved up from the rents before, and that'll cover some of it. But also it's not like necessary that it needs to get done. It's good that it gets done. And just before that, we spent $6,000 working on fixing up 3 of the units in one of the other properties. So sometimes it takes more, whereas like the 6 months before that, I didn't have a single thing to worry about. So it comes and it goes.
It's just kind of the adventure of living life. No matter what you do, that's just what's going to happen. You have to be able to be resilient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Ginny, you had some money rules, Ginny, that you like to follow.
Well, yes. So I mentioned the one about paying yourself first and setting up a system, to generate wealth, build your wealth, you need to pay yourself first and have a system in place. Antonio transferred money to a bank account that only his mom had access to. And there are all sorts of ways you can set up with your bank or a separate bank accounts that you have to go 2 or 3 steps to actually get to them. It just pay yourself first. The money goes there and don't even think about it. And the other thing for sure is to know what your fixed costs are. know what it costs every month to live, your rent, your hydro, your insurance, all of those things. And even track your daily costs. There are all sorts of apps now where you can track your Starbucks coffee every day, or right now we're all working from home, so you're not out buying lunches, but just to get a sense of what you are spending and where your money is going. And it is a real eye opener. So it's that, and then just to try different systems. Maybe budgeting works for you. Maybe it's more knowing that you have like disposable income of $85 a month or something, and you can do whatever you want with it. It's just to be aware of what's coming in and what's going out.
And that awareness is what kind of starts to turn the tide almost naturally. When you start being present to what's going on and how you work,
absolutely,
then things just naturally sort of start to change.
And do whatever you can to not carry a balance on a credit card. Whatever you can. Because that interest rate they're just crazy.
Yeah, they're ridiculously high.
And then, you instill these habits and check in and know what's coming in, going out, and what's in your savings account. And you'll start to see how it just starts building and building.
One of the things why we're doing this challenge is because we're talking about harder issues like money, like health. And yesterday we talked with Robert Love about Alzheimer's. And then at 2 a.m., that's when I woke up thinking about my dad and Alzheimer's and the stress around it. Part of what we're doing with the challenge is to bring the uncomfortable things up to the surface so we can look for them. And this conversation is actually kind of uncomfortable because it's about saving. It's about changing our habits and our relationship with money. And that's so emotional. This is probably one of the most emotional, and it doesn't seem emotional because you guys are just talking facts, but it's emotional because people have so many emotions around investing in themselves or around not having credit card debt, because, most of us have credit card debt, or the things that we should be doing, but we're not doing because we just had to have the latest thing because we were so depressed and we didn't feel good. And, it just for that moment, it made us feel better because we don't know what else to do. So it's hard because this conversation, more than anything else, I think will bring things up for people. I'm a loser. I could never do that. Oh, he's young, so of course he can invest. Oh, she's been doing this for a while since she was a young woman, so it's no big deal. We have all of these beliefs and emotions and things wrapped up in it that keep us from making smart decisions. We're blinded because there's so many emotional memories tied to money and beliefs around money. So if stuff comes up, just remember to just pause and calm your nervous system down and see what's behind it. You don't necessarily have to make up a story around it. You just have to get your heart and your brain regulated and get that stress off of your system. And then you'll be able to see deeper into money. It's not something that'll happen overnight, right? It's something that we all had to work on about changing our ideas about money. We had to fail and then be like, oh, I'm a loser and I'm broke and I'm going to be bankrupt. And then we had to fail again. I'm a loser. I'm going to be bankrupt. I mean, I did that for 16 years. So it's, there's this cycle of feeling that way and people not being able to get out of it. And so what we want to do is at least bring the subject up, the uncomfortable subject up, without any judgmentalism, without anything, and say, let's start working on the fears and the anxieties we have around, retirement and investing and money rules and saving and debt, because they're just so terror inducing, I think, for people.
Yes. And when you do your challenge next, Rita, in the spring, get Now I'm drawing a blank.
It's okay.
I will get you the name. One of our colleagues is a retirement coach, or a money coach. And yes, there is so much around money that we are not aware of.
Mm-hmm. A lot of emotional ties. Yeah.
Yeah, people like attach it a lot to who they are and what it means about them. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of money, or oh, I'm not rich. But it takes time to become rich, and it takes time to have a lot of money, and you're
When
not.
it takes personal development anymore, I think too, you have to be able to manage. You have to be able to manage the money that you're getting first before you're able to get more.
And your definition of wealth and my definition of wealth will be different.
Right.
As
Exactly.
His definition of wealth is way different than all three of ours, probably.
Yeah.
So, would you both be willing to do like a half-hour consult for the women who engage the most today?
Yeah.
That would be
Of course.
awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I'll put it out there. So if you want to have a conversation with Antonio and help him work through some of your money issues around, investing in yourself with property and how to get into that, or Ginny works great with burnout, right? That's kind of some of your specialty, burnout.
Yes. Yes. Where you're just so overwhelmed. You bet.
And most of the women in this group are, I think. So cool. That's exciting. We've been having a great week so far. I'm really glad you guys came and hung out with me. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And everybody, 8:00 tonight is the regulation, the self-healing. So I'll do that. Sometimes the first 10, 15 minutes, the Wi-Fi can be spotty till I get to sort it out. So, just hang out with us. We do it for an hour. And other than that, I'll see people tomorrow, and have fun with Evan tomorrow on the day-long thing, because I clearly won't be there because I'll be here.
All right. Thanks, Rita.
Cool.
Jenny.
Thanks, guys. Have a nice afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.